Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am LD of dotacommentaries.com, and you're watching the Dota Show. Today, I think, what is it? Is it episode 9? Yeah, it's episode 9. We're almost done 2 weeks, and, well, I gotta say, guys, it's been a lot of fun, and I feel like the show is improving. I feel like the content's getting better, but I'm not sure that I'm dealing with it very well personally. Okay, so I was casting a lot today. If you guys didn't catch those games for Beyond the Summits World Tour, first, let me say you should really watch them, especially Game 3 between Complexity and Ehum. Not going to spoil that. I guess I kind of spoiled it because the series goes to 3 games, but there are more spoilers out there. Well, that was a great game, so definitely worth checking out. Also, LGD versus Tongfu, the entire series, it was pretty exciting as well. But the one thing I will say that's happening is I'm working a lot, and again, it's not just the casting; it's also the other work I'm doing outside of that to make ends meet. As I don't really make any money casting just yet, so I'm busy in that respect. And well, see, here's the thing. So because I'm not sleeping that much and I'm casting a lot, and then I always start at what is it? I start at 9 a.m. in the morning casting, and then by the time I'm done, it's like 4 in the afternoon. I ended up, editing the VODs and that sort of thing. By no means am I complaining. I love casting these games. I love getting to watch them live, so I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong, but it's a lot of work, and I'm making my camera shake a bit. But I'm losing track of time. I took a nap. I wake up, and I don't know what time it is. I was actually freaking out a little bit. I don't know if you guys have ever had this moment of sort of just total panic, where you go to sleep and maybe you forgot to set an alarm clock or you set it, but you're not. You wake up like a few minutes before it goes off, and you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe I missed it, and I got all upset. I was like, man, I missed the Dota show. And then I look over at the clock because I can't actually see it unless I sit up in my bed. So I reluctantly sit up. Well, in fact, it was about an hour and a half early. So the delusion is starting to set in a little bit for me. I have no idea where I am. I have no idea what time it is. If anybody can help me get home, I am a lost man or puppy or whatever I might be. I am horribly lost. So please save me, guys. Okay. Just had to check my microphone was on. Indeed, it is. That'd be pretty bad if I was talking to myself this whole time. So that's me right now. And well, the other thing that I'll mention is I have pretty bad vocal cords, I think, or maybe I'm not casting properly. If anybody out there is a voice expert, can give me vocal lessons or tips on how to preserve my voice. It was about 8 hours of talking and casting today, and of course I've been casting and doing other stuff, as well in the previous days. I felt my throat tightening up a little bit. It's not quite sore, but it was very dry. I was just pounding water constantly. If you didn't know better, you'd think I was addicted to water. And I'm a little worried about losing my voice at the international, especially if it's only 8 hours now. So I guess I probably shouldn't scream as much. And some people have talked about breathing with your sort of your chest and less with your mouth, I guess. Like basically those deep breaths are what you want. It's very hard for me to remember. Like I forget to breathe when I'm casting. So if anybody has any practical tips or can refer me to resources, I would actually really appreciate that because it's only day 3 of Beyond the Summit and I'm already losing my voice a bit. So if I'm a little bit quieter than normal, I do apologize. I'm trying to give myself a bit of a break. Okay, let's get into the meat of this episode. Last week we took a look at Windrunner, and I deviated a bit from the original formula of Getting That Ass Larry, which is just to focus on a hero, talk about skill build, item build, decision making. I tried to add this concept of pressure in and talk about it, and it ended up being less a Windrunner guide and more a pressure guide that happened to have some Windrunner tips in it. I really want the focus to be on the heroes. I know that's what a lot of you are here for today. So we're gonna focus just on Windrunner, just on Morphling, and just how to play that hero in an actual game. I will be focusing on one game played by myself. Again, I am not a pro player. Disclaimer: I am not perfect. I make mistakes, but I do hope this will be educational for you all. And without really any further ado, let's just go ahead and jump straight into that replay. So we have ourselves our in-game screen, and we're actually good to go. Oh, I don't have my chat up, so I have no idea what you guys are saying. Hot water lubricates your throat. Sipping hot water will help a lot. You don't go crazy from sleep deprivation. Hot water. How to increase vocal stamina. Are you guys just Googling this, or do you actually... Is this actually good stuff here? Okay, I'll check those links out later, but let's skip ahead. Okay, so I'm on the dire side. I am, of course, LD. And my replay is dying. Uh-oh. Okay, let's go take ourselves over to player perspective, and we're taking a look here at the morphling. Alright, guys. So, off the bat, I'm playing morphling. Generally speaking, at level 1, you want to go for waveform. This is the skill. Actually, let me pause real quick. I like to review the skills quickly before I really dive into the content, just for anyone who's not familiar. So morphling is an agility hero. He's a carry hero. He scales really well with farm. He's a hero that can take you into the late game. But as far as carries go, he's one of the strongest in the laning phase. And it's mainly because of waveform. Waveform is a very strong AoE damage nuke. While you're waveforming, you are invulnerable, so it can be used to dodge spells. It also moves you forward quite a bit. It's got quite a nice range to it as well. So it's a strong nuke. Normally you get this at level 1. Now occasionally you'll see players, especially in pro games, they'll get morph at level 1. Now as soon as you get morph, you get 3 extra agility and 3 extra strength. It gives you access to these 2 spells. When you toggle the agility gain from morph, it'll give you more agility and it'll take away from your strength, which means you lose HP, you gain armor, you gain damage. If you use the strength gain, you lose armor, you lose damage, but you gain a lot of HP. So this is the one that sort of keeps you alive, morphing to strength. And this is the one that's going to help you do that extra last hitting. So oftentimes in pro games, you will see pros at level 1 go for a single point and morph for the agility gain, so that they can morph a little bit extra to agility and help with their last hitting. And plus, like I said, it gives you that passive agility as well. But generally, and especially in a pub game, you don't know if they're going to gank you at level 1. You may not be able to count on your team. And, well, you're probably going to miss last hits anyway. So go for waveform to be safe. That's generally going to be my recommendation. But yeah, the standard build, max waveform first, max morph second. Occasionally, you might want to get a point in adaptive strike for the mini stun. We'll talk about adaptive strike just a bit more, but generally you max this skill and this skill first. And again, these two they're all one ability. They're separate hotkeys for morph, agility gain, and strength gain, but you level these two up together. When you level up one, it levels up the other as well. Okay, so I've talked about those two abilities very briefly. As far as adaptive strike goes, generally this is the last spell you max after you've maxed morph or waveform, and after you've maxed morph. Now, getting 1 point in this early can be good. It gives you a mini stun, and sometimes if you want to cancel someone's TP, if you're just leveling up, if you need a bit of extra damage, that's an option to get a single point in it. But especially since morph was recently buffed, the spell didn't used to give you passive stats. All it did was allow you to switch between strength and agility quickly. But it now gives you a passive +3 agility as well as strength at level 1. And the reason that you level it up primarily is because it increases the rate at which you actually can change stats. So what ends up happening is this works as a heal when you need it. So if you want to dive into a tower, be very aggressive, and you get into trouble, the enemy shows up, tries to gank you, if you toggle on your morph strength gain, you'll be able to escape. And we'll talk a lot more about the mechanics of morph and how powerful it is as a spell in a little bit. But yeah, generally max this one first, max this second. Maybe get a point in this if you need the stun. The same for replicate. Now this I like getting a 10 and 11, but sometimes you want to get a point earlier. The way that replicate works, you can create an illusion of any hero, friend or foe, as you can see here. So this is essentially a free TP for you, and that's generally how you use it early on. If you need to go back to Fountain and you have enough mana to replicate and TP out, replicate an ally or an enemy, keep the replicate alive, TP back to base, and then immediately once you've healed up, replicate back into lane. So that's why you would get a point early if you want that free TP. It's sort of like being a prophet and using teleport to go back to base, and then having a TP scroll to go back to lane, or vice versa. So generally you'll get this at 10 and 11. You'll max waveform at levels 1, 3, 5, and 7. By 7 it will be maxed, and then you'll get your morph maxed up. And finally, adaptive strike will be leveled between that level 12 to 14 mark. And you'll have 1 point in it at 10. So that's the general skill build. With all that being said, we'll go ahead and unpause. I'll talk about items for morph. Now, I generally like to play morph building a lot of small stat items off the bat. Because he has this morph ability, he benefits heavily from getting a lot of agility and strength. Now, you can't morph the stats from items, but when you get extra stats from items, it means if you want to morph to agility to get more damage, you'll still have a little bit more HP. If you want to morph to strength to get a little bit of extra HP, you'll still have some armor and some damage from that agility. So that's why you go for a lot of stats items early. Examples of those stats items, I guess I have to go off player perspective here. We can go for things like the early Reign of Aquila. It's a great pickup for him. I almost always rush this in lane, and you'll see most pros do it as well. You start with the Reign of Protection. You can buy the Sobi mask from the side shop here. So if you're in the side lane, which you generally will be as morph, then it makes it easy to complete this item. If you ever random, you can actually build the whole Reign of Aquila pretty much off the bat. Just start with the Wraithband recipe, as well as the circlet, and then the Ring of Protection, and the rest of it you can buy at the side shop. So stat items generally what you want to go for early. I mentioned the Rate of Aquila. You'll often see a bottle. Now, I'm going to last hit very poorly to start this off, and you're going to see this Disruptor does a great job of harassing me. And, well, Lich is not the best support at level 1 because all he's going to have is his Deny skill. So he's going to be able to kill off our creeps and help keep the wave pulled back. But he's not actually going to be able to harass or control the lane, whereas Disruptor is very aggressive and very strong. I'm tanking the wave a lot. Yeah, you want to try to avoid it, but I really want these last hits early. Okay, so I talked about getting stat items early. I mentioned Ring of Aquila. Drums of Endurance, actually not a bad choice if you're really struggling in terms of farm, but generally, Ring of Aquila, Power Treads, that's going to be your very core items, maybe a magic one as well. Of course, Power Treads give you those stats, allow you to switch between them at will, so it's like a secondary aspect to Morph. Okay, so you get those early stat items. Now, one thing to keep in mind about Morphling, he is very strong in the lane. He's one of the few carries that can actually get kills early. You're not seeing it here. I'm getting harassed a lot. And again, it goes back to the Lich being level 1. There's just not much he can do. So I'm really trying to avoid these confrontations. I was actually whining to Wicked here, my good friend from DC, the owner of dotacommentaries.com, which is a great stat site as far as competitive games go. But I was actually complaining about the harassment here from Disruptor. It wasn't really his fault, but because of being harassed so heavily, you can see them taking a lot of damage. They're actually going to dive in on me just a touch. But I'm not worried about dying. If they ever go in on me, I have so many ways to escape. And this is where Morphling really shines as a carry. He does a lot of damage early with Waveform. He can be aggressive, but if you're in a bad situation, he's very hard to kill. Waveform allows you to disjoint spells like a Storm Bolt or even some of the other nukes in the game. Anything that's a projectile can be disjointed. And when I say disjoint, what I mean is if you use Waveform at the right time, you'll actually dodge that spell entirely, whether it's a Magic Missile, whether it's a Storm Bolt. And even if you don't dodge it, it also gives you a blink, a pseudo blink. So it lets you move away. You can waveform into trees, you can waveform back to your tower. If your opponents are backstabbing you, maybe you waveform the other direction. So it gives you that mobility. It's why Anti-Mage is also very hard to kill off in pubs. And let's go back to the player perspective here. But along the lines of that, it's not just the waveform that gives Morphling survivability, it's also this morph ability early on. Even at one point in it, if they ever tower dive you, you can just turn on Morph and it's going to help keep you alive. So you want to get comfortable with your hotkey setup. For Morphling, I feel having good hotkeys, he's one of the most important heroes to do so. I mean, not quite at the stage of a Chen or a hero that requires micro, but much more so than other carries, because you need to be able to toggle Morph on and off at a moment's notice. And if you get the hotkeys wrong, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So, you know, I highly recommend practicing them, maybe even write them, you practice them in a, what am I trying to say here? You practice them, you know, maybe even in a practice game before you go into a pub if you want to feel more comfortable. Because once you get good at these hotkeys, the Morphling will feel very fluid, but at first it can be quite difficult. Okay, so, like I'm showing you, or like I was talking about earlier, maxi waveform first, it gives me the nuke. Now, in this situation, you can make an argument for getting Morph over that, because, well, I'm not really harassing, and so then the extra stats might be a bit more helpful. Wicked taking a lot of damage here. We're really getting outlaned hard. Sunstrike is narrowly going to miss him. All I want to do is farm. You're going to see me waveforming under the tower because I messed up my last hitting there. I really want to get something up now. I think I actually go for a Lincoln Spear this game. As far as those first few items, I talked about Power Treads, I talked about Ring of Aquila. But Morphling is a very mana-hungry hero, and he's a hero that can be aggressive. So, if you're not being aggressive, you're probably getting harassed. Either way, you want regen. And I'm actually going to be a bit too aggressive here. Huge dive for me, but you're going to see I'm able to survive, and actually Sunstrike is narrowly going to miss. I don't think I was even trying to dodge that. That was just luck. If I'm the Invoker, I'm pretty mad there. And at this point, I think I semi-split. Okay, yeah, this is where I go for a bottle first. So, I really like bottle on Morphling, and here's why. He needs mana, he needs HP. So it's always a great item on a hero that has a spammable nuke-like waveform. But in the case of Morphling, it's really, really good because he has Morph. So one trick you can do, let's say you have about 100 health, you're Morph pretty heavy to strength, so you have like 1,000 base HP, and then you have, let's say, a full mana pool. What you can actually do, and I'm not really doing it properly here, but what you can do is morph everything to agility. You'll have like 350 health, and then you can use 3 bottle charges and be back up to full HP, and then morph back to strength. So you can play around with that, and it allows you to really maximize regen, whether it's a bottle charge. And I mentioned bottle because it's renewable. But it works as well for healing cells, for clarities, if you have a Wisp on your team. Even if your teammate's going to use an Urn or a Mech and Sunstrike, you hear just the constant bombardments on this lane. I felt like I was playing Command & Conquer or something, and I was up against those guys that have the Ion Cannon. But in the end I was able to live. They get a first blood. You're gonna see my team really falls behind in this game early, and I'm not having a good time in lane. It's very easy to get frustrated as a carry hero, and I'm someone who I'm very guilty of getting frustrated early and often. As a pub player, I haven't really played competitive games too much, but we're actually gonna get a kill here in Platinum, and I just want to show you how quickly he drops. So we're actually gonna rewatch that real fast. Okay, so he's pretty much at full health. Lich is going to come in, and immediately I see an opportunity here. We agree to go. Good, we're communicating. The nuke to start, the wave to follow. Within about 3 seconds, he drops from full to nothing. And this is a lane where I was losing early on. I was getting out harassed. I was not farming well. I only have 16 CS in 6 minutes, which, for anyone who doesn't know, that's not really good farm, especially in the protected lane. But this is how strong Morphling is as a carry. You don't need that great farm to get kills. He has a lot of burst damage thanks to waveform. He's not like an anti-mage where you need to get some items up to really do damage and to be aggressive. I mean, sure, anti-mage is mana burn, but he doesn't have any nukes. Morphling has a great nuke in the waveform. And unlike other nukes, Morphlings scale into the late game because he has adaptive strike. For anyone who's not familiar with it, I started to talk about it a bit. The way the adaptive strike works is it actually does damage based on your agility, and it stuns based on your strength. So if you morph all the way over to agility, you'll see Morphlings that have 150, 200, 300 agility in the late game situation. A lot of damage. And then you're going to do 2 times that. So you might do 600 damage. And if you throw Ethereal Blade on top of it, it'll actually amp up your adaptive strike. It'll banish your opponents and do more damage based on your agility, which is why you see that as such a common item pickup. But basically my point is his nukes scale. It's sort of similar to Huskar's Life Break in the sense that the longer the game goes, it remains relevant as a nuke. Even though it's a magical spell, even though a lot of Morphling's damage is magically based. And here we go, we're going to dive onto PA. Prophet's TPing into counter gank, and now we're going to see 4 heroes converge on top. Sorry, actually 3. Prophet ult's flying through. Alright, I'm in a bit of a bad spot here. I'm at 200 health. This is where you need to have those quick fingers on the hotkeys. I'm taking a lot of damage. You need to be morphing to strength. You can see from this red stuff going on under me, that means I am morphing to strength right now. Watch how much I'm able to tank. 3 heroes attacking me. I just ate a couple nukes. PA is going to start right-clicking me. Prophet already is. Watch what happens, and this is really the power of Morphling. Waveform away, still taking damage. Lich hitting a great nuke on all 3. I actually get pulled back in again. Oh, I'm sorry I missed that one. I forgot about this. But yeah, he uses Glimpse, and it brings me back in. I do end up going down. But look what an investment it was to kill me off. There aren't many other carries where you can do this. Okay, so I'm not having a good time in lane. We're actually going to go ahead and just fast forward a touch here. As I believe it turns into a lot of farming for me. Player perspective. Checking out how the other lanes are doing. Again, early magic wand, bottle, some regen items. And now I'm going to go back top, look to continue the farm. And again, we see PA had basically full health, 1 nuke plus a waveform, some auto attacks, going to be enough to get the kill. Now, PA is not a great hero in lane by any means. I'm morphing back to agility right now. Good juki by PA, by the way, and the evasion kicking as well. Almost getting wicked here. I had to wave just because I didn't want him to die, but then Prophet shows up. And look at the situation we're in right now. Why can't I see my own perspective? Okay, I'm a level 6 Morphling up against a Prophet who's got a level advantage and item advantage early on. And I'm able to 1v1 him. That wave did about half his health. Disruptor even joined the fight, tried to hold me in place, wasn't able to do so. Morphling doesn't need a lot of items to do damage early on. Now that being said, he needs items to be useful in the mid to late game, so don't be too aggressive. You want to get this farm, but another wave in. A nice gank from the Bounty Hunter. We were behind like 4-1. We're starting to catch up now. But the key for Morphling is don't get cocky. You need those items. All I have right now is bottle, boots, and... Well, you see me ferry in my bottle. I'm a bit over-attached to this technique, but most players never use it. So if you don't already do this, I highly recommend ferrying your bottle back to base. What that means is put your bottle on the ground or just give it over to the Flying Courier. When it's empty, after you use all your charges, send it back to base and then deliver it back to yourself. Now, the reason I say I'm an abuser is that I will use the Courier constantly, sometimes without even asking my team. That's bad etiquette. You really shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do it. But what can I say? Sometimes I just don't feel like talking to them, and I want to make sure I get my farm. To some extent, being a good carry player is about being selfish in games, though, especially in pubs. You want to help your team, but you have to choose your spots wisely. If you're too aggressive in your efforts to help your team, you're going to fall behind. You're not going to be able to contribute when they really need you to in the later stage of the game. Still, I'm able to ferry the bottle. Now they want to dive me at the tower, and well, they're going to blink in. The nuke's coming out. Do they have the damage? I think they might get me here. It's a lot of bursts, and this is me being greedy. Hanging around the tower, I'm up against an Invoker with Sunstrike. I'm up against a Prophet's Wrath of Nature. It's a lot of burst damage, a lot of global potential, and I'm still farming with about 100 health. But I might actually survive here. Actually, in fact, I am going to. Look at the Lich Ult bouncing through, and we're not done yet. I get the last hit, so great support by Wicked letting me get all of those. And now I go the other way. I had about 100 health, guys, so if you have that those quick fingers on Strength Gain, you can turn these around. I actually was a little annoyed here. Thought Disruptor would escape, but in comes the Rubik. Nice rotation by him. Gets the kill. This is where you would like a point and replicate. Okay, so look what I'm doing right now. I TP back to base. Ideally, what you want to do, replicate your ally first, then you TP back. You send the replicate to wherever you want to go to farm, wherever you want to go to push or gank, whatever you want to do. Send that replicate in the right direction. Just make sure to keep it alive. Heal up at base, and this is where the bottle comes in handy, because for anyone who doesn't know, you can spam the bottle constantly while you're at fountain, and it'll make you regen a lot quicker, makes those fountain trips shorter. So you make the replicate, you TP back to base, and then as soon as you're healed up, you have all your items, you replicate back in. So I didn't talk too much about the replicate. And one thing I will point out is that it scales based on the hero that you create an illusion of. So if you create a replicate of Anti-Mage, that illusion gets Mana Burn, and it actually takes 100% damage, meaning most illusions take double damage or even triple damage. Whenever they take damage, it's more than the hero itself would, more than the other the real source image would. But in the case of replicate illusions, they don't take extra damage. They take standard damage. So it means that the replicates can be incredibly tanky. If your opponent has, I don't know, what's a really strong tanky style here? Maybe a Centaur War Chief. I should probably use one that's actually in Dota too. So a Radiance carry, maybe something like a Spectre, you get that Radiance burn as well. So replicate, I mean, I'm giving you a couple of examples of how to use these abilities. But one thing you want to keep in mind is that Morphling's skill set is so versatile. Waveform, it's not just a nuke, it's also an escape mechanism. It's also a chasing skill. It's an ability that can be used to push as well. So it's got a lot of utility itself. Adaptive Strike, while it's normally used for the damage, it also stuns more based on your strength. So if you're morphed to strength, it's a long duration stun. If you're morphed to agility, it's a nuke. Of course, morph can be used offensively and defensively. We've seen it mostly defensively so far, but later on we'll see the power of that offensive morphing towards the agility. And of course, replicate. I told you one way to use it. That's for the quick fountain trips, which I won't be able to do until level 9, but then you'll see a lot more of it. But there's a lot of other ways, and we'll go over those as this game progresses. Okay, so I TP back to base. I'm going to walk back to lane, so there's nothing really to see here. Let's go ahead and fast forward. I'm actually morphing back to agility just a bit. Waving out of the fountain, and, well, I underestimated how much regen I would get. But something you could do if you have a hero that is a blink or a leap, this just helps you get back to base quicker, or out to lane quicker, whether it's a blink dagger. And I really don't lose too much mana. You'll see I'm back to full by the time I get there. So whether you have a blink dagger, a blink spell like an anti-mage, or anything like that, that's one way that you can get back to the lane. You want to maximize your farming time, and that's why I'm bringing up the fountain trips with replicate. It's not just because it's a cool looking thing to do. It's because it will actually let you farm more. You're gonna miss less creeps, you can be in the lane faster. Okay, so what are we seeing right now? I am pushing top lane. The enemy have 3 grouped up mid. I could look to help mid, but that's really not my job. I haven't gotten a whole lot of farm. 37 CS in 11 minutes. In fact, I would say it's rather atrocious farm. You want to have 5-6 creeps a minute if you're farming well. Ideally, you get at 8 CS a minute. I take a lot of tower damage here. I know I have the bottle to regen up. For anyone who doesn't know, if you A-click an ally creep, it will actually remove the tower aggro on you as long as you do it at the right time. So just press A and click on a creep, it'll remove that aggro and allow you to stand in tower range. The other option is to run away. Okay, we get the tower, I morph to agility to help do it quicker, I bottle up to heal, and now Wicked and I want to fight, but then we see a third hero join the fight. Gyrocopter's really getting out of hand. Again, I'm still very weak at this point. Look at what I have. It's just a Ring of Aquila, boots, and magic wand. I need items. Until I get up my first core item, I'm very squishy, I'm easy to kill off, and I'm not going to do that much damage. I mean, I have some damage potential, but it's not really worth that risk of dying unless you're sure you can get the kills. Which right now I'm not. So we're going to see a lot of farming. I'm going to continue to ferry my bottle. Again, maybe I should be asking the team for the courier, but they didn't complain this game, so I kind of dodged the bullet. Have that etiquette, though, because you don't want your team to be upset at you. I see what's going on mid. I think about joining the fight, but instead I decided to actually just push. And this is one of the best ways to contribute as a carry hero, especially in pub games. People don't carry TP scrolls in pubs. It's a bit of an epidemic, and even if they have them, they're very slow to react. So I show up top, I threaten to push, and then I see they're all messy off the map. So I mean, even for a player like me who doesn't have the best map awareness, I know it's time to back off. I'm going to go farm the jungle, maybe even pull the top lane. But the way for me to contribute right now is to push, is maybe to go for solo kills, but I don't really want to participate in big team fights unless my team is great positioning, unless the enemy is diving or something like that. So bottle back in my possession. We're going to keep it at 2x speed for a bit now. We might see some kills. Actually, we're going to. And again, look how much damage Morphling does. I'm almost entirely agility morphed. When you're playing against Morphling, something I will mention, you want to click on this hero a lot because sometimes he'll have a ton of strength, sometimes he'll have a ton of agility. You want to know, is he going to do a lot of damage? Is he going to be easy to kill? Because yes, he can morph quickly, but it's not instant. And in this case, Invoker might have been able to burst me down, especially with a Sunstrike, the Prophet ultimate, although Prophet is kind of wasting his ult here to farm. But nonetheless, I'm actually going to pick up a kill. And again, I don't have many items right now. He throws in the Sunstrike, it's not going to hit. I just right-click him down. And now I continue to push. I wave in. I'm just trying to get that wave moving in my favor. I see a lot of action mid. I actually do TP in. This was a mistake in my opinion, but it works out okay. We at least get the one kill. I would have been better off farming top, and so back I go to that top lane. I'm going to continue to push. No, that's not my Midas, guys.
Radiant's top tower
I run into a bunch of heroes here, and uh-oh, you can see Morph is strong for keeping me alive, but it's not instant, and it's not going to be enough here. I will go down. Bad map awareness by me, and now I have to sit in Fountain and think about it for a little while. What could I have done better? So, this is where having a replicate up would have kept me safe. If I had a replicate of an enemy hero up, what I can do is, or an allied here for that matter, I can send it somewhere else where I would want to farm, maybe over to the mid lane with my team, maybe back to the creep camps, and when they gank me, you just use replicate and you're immediately going to be able to get away. So I respawn. I'm going for Lincoln Sphere. I generally recommend if you're going to go Lincoln Sphere, you get it as quickly as possible. If you're not farming well, it's kind of a bad item to go for. You get it for the early regen and the spell block, but later on in the game, generally, it's not going to offer you too much. Exceptions would be if you're up against a hero like Doom, who's got a great single target silence, Night Stalker as well. That's where maybe you want to get a Lincoln Sphere no matter what. It gives you some stats to work with, and the regen, which is great for spamming waveform. And at this point, I'm killing off some illusions, but I'm going to go back to farming soon. And look at the chase we have on the Platinum. I want that kill. I'm not going to get it, and now I'm running the hell away. Just want to get out of here. Please don't kill me, sir. We find the Prophet. We're going to go for the kill. Wave in, and look at the damage. I'm tanking everything Gyrocopter has to offer. I'm dropping low, but morphing to strength, running away, waving back in. And I guess one thing that we're seeing right now, which I haven't really mentioned, is Morphling's hard to kill, right? But it's not like a one-shot thing where he's hard to kill. He's hard to kill the whole fight. And if you ever sense a momentum change, if you feel you can turn things around, you morph back to agility, you waveform back in. You know, I walk away a few steps, I use a bottle charge, and I'm back in business. I walk back in, I drop the waveform. Even if you're strength morphed, you can still do a lot of damage just with waveform. And even when he's strength morphed, I mean, I have more strength than agility right now. Look at how I hit. I still hit pretty hard. That's about 100 damage per right click, and some decent attack speed as well. So with Morphling, you always sort of want to keep one eye on the fight, even if you're running away. Don't just blindly run back to Fountain. You know, one other way to do it is, of course, have that replicate, TP out, then rejoin the fight. We'll see that later. But yeah, even before you have the replicates up, even before you're really using them, you can still look to turn things around. He's one of the most deceptively difficult heroes to kill, and he's also a hero that's deceptively strong at turning around. I morph back to agility, and for some dumb reason I use my wand. This is a really bad habit of mine, but never waste your wand charges. It's a free heal, and it's something that you have to build those up. You want it available, but I'm just compulsive, man. I can't break this habit. But either way, tanking the tower, taking a little bit of damage here. I replicate out. Okay, and see the replicate back at base now, so I can heal up instantly. Again, you want to be able to micro it. I'm going for power tread, so this is gonna be a very late Lincoln Sphere. We'll kick it back into 2x speed. Again, if you're going for Lincoln Sphere, you need to continue farming. Don't get caught up fighting too much. My farm's still not very good, but we will see. It does pick up as this game progresses. So, how can I contribute to my team? Push that bottom lane. Get those early outer towers. Have your Reign of a Kill active. And actually, PA wants to man fight here. I'm going to do a lot of damage to him. Tower's going to drop low. PA maybe wants to defend it. Prophet's even a TPN. PA comes back in, thinking about it. Waveform in, kill the PA. And I'm going to start morphing to strength. The enemy may be coming here. I don't know where they are right now, so I thought they were coming bot. I kill this camp, and what am I going to do now? I TP out to base. Now, I want to have a replicate up. I should have replicated the Prophet first, because then I can be right back farming bottom. Still, the point is, I'm in a 2v1 situation. I get a kill. I get away. I also get the tower last hit. And I mentioned the agility morphing to push faster. That's one technique where you want to use it. We'll see others as well, but it lets you push faster, also lets you do a bit more damage. And look how hard I hit on this Prophet. He actually tries to TP out. That's where you want to use Adaptive Strike. If you're ever up against someone who either has a TP scroll or teleportability, make sure that you hold onto Adaptive Strike to cancel it. I didn't necessarily need it in that case, but we'll see in other cases that you definitely do. Farming.
Bottom tower has been denied.
Getting close to that Lincoln Sphere. Not quite there yet, and constantly applying that pressure to the lane. Again, this is the most I can offer to the team. I set my replicate mid. It was getting close to running out, and I see there are a lot of enemy heroes grouped up mid, so I know I'm not going to need it right away. As a result, I actually go ahead and feed it to the enemy. You can, so another way to use that replicate is sort of with my games. And I have overstayed my welcome, bottom. Silence! And this is something I haven't talked about with Morph. Morph is one of the best spells in the game because it actually works even when you're silenced, but only if you've already started using it. So in this case, if I had pressed that Morph hotkey, if I was quicker on the hotkey before Disruptor showed up and used his ultimate, which silenced me, I might have even lived here. As crazy as that sounds, I might have been able to do it. But once you're silenced, if you haven't toggled it on, you won't be able to. You also won't be able to replicate out. So silences are very, very good at dealing with Morphling, whether it's an Orchid, a Night Stalker, Silence Doom. A lot of options there, but they can be a great way to deal with them. So if you're ever up against Morphling and you can silence him prematurely, that's a great way to deal with him. But here's the thing that you want to keep in mind. You can actually toggle on Morph while you're dealing with a lot of disables in this game. So if, let's say, a Sven stuns you, while you're stunned, you can press Morph and toggle it on. Yeah, I'm not kidding. You can actually do that. It's pretty outrageous. And because you can turn on... Actually, let me just turn down the volume. It's a little distracting. Sorry, guys. Can't hear myself think. Oh, you know what? Instead of turning it down in game, I can just reduce my speakers. Okay, sorry about that.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
That was the wrong direction. Oh my god, my eardrums. I'm so sorry, guys. Please don't hate me. My ears hurt just as much as yours right now. Okay, here we go with the unpause. It's a bit quieter for me. Okay, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so if you can toggle away from time, it's really effective. You can... No, that's not my point. You can toggle Morph even while you're disabled. There are some things you can't toggle it while you're disabled by. A great example is Sheep. So, if you're ever hexed, whether it's through Shadow Shaman, Lion, you cannot actually turn it on there. But for the most part, you can turn on Morph while you're stunned. Even if you're inside a Chronosphere, you can. So, it's one of these spells that's just such a pain to deal with. And you're actually going to see me tanking the tower. I'm taking a lot of nuke damage here, but morphing to strength, and then I just get obliterated. No, actually, that wasn't me. That was the Lid. I get out of there. The missile is going to follow me back to base. Now I have my Lincoln Sphere, and now I can farm more aggressively. I can play more aggressively. Again, I'm not having my replicates up, and so by no means is my play super refined or perfect, but the concepts are really what I want you guys to pay attention to. Use replicate for free TP. Use it to bait your opponents. I mentioned the mind games. You can see wave in into the gank, and I'm actually taking a lot of damage here, because they just can't kill me off, and I waveform in again, still chasing, and Sunstrike is going to put an end to my aggression. I thought he'd actually used Sunstrike already, so that was a blunder by me. We may even see a Rage buyback soon. I don't like to sit a Fountain. I don't recommend doing this, unless you can get a lot of farm. In this case, I think I make it mostly pay as dead for about 40 seconds. I'll get about 500 gold out of this buyback, as well as some experience. Okay, so I didn't have a good laning stage, but now I'm doing quite well. 11, 4, and 3. My team's helping me out a lot. I'm getting a lot of last hits. And actually, that's something you want to do as Morphe. You want to steal those kills, because you need every bit of gold you can get. Especially with this Lincoln Sphere build. This is a build, I mean, sure, it's good early, you want to get it early, but you get this to farm a lot more. It's like a Battlefield on anti-mage. You don't get it to go fight, you get it to farm even faster. Also allows me to push, and without having to worry about being ganked. And, well, I might overextend here. Yep, the silence, and again, guys, you gotta be quick. You gotta have your hotkeys ready on that strength morph. I do not, and I feed again. If I was able to strength morph in time before that silence came out, I would have lived. So, if you're pushing aggressively like that, if there's enemies missing off the map, well, first of all, have a replicate up. Probably don't be there. But if you're gonna be there, you damn well better have those quick figures. Okay, this time I can't rage buyback. My buyback's in cooldown. I actually immediately mashed it. Instead I watched my team. Probably complaining the whole time because that's what I actually do. Okay, I'm about to respawn. Big team fight break out. We don't care about any of that. But I see the engagement mid, I TP in, I go for the profit here, and, well, I'm pretty hard to take down, and actually look at what I'm doing right now. They've already lost a couple of heroes, but when I went in, it was a 4v1 situation, and now they lose a second hero. We get the Disruptor, and I'm not done just yet. I think I get every single one of these kills. Something else you can use Waveform for, let's go back and watch that. That is something very important to point out. Or not Waveform, Replicate, rather. Something else you can use Replicate for is to chase. It has a pretty long cast range if you look at it. Oh, actually you can't see. Yep, you see that range right now. Almost, in fact, it's bigger than a screen. So you can Replicate an enemy and then immediately use Replicate again just to catch up. When you do this, I recommend wait until you have Waveform ready. Or until you have Adaptive Strike ready. If either of them will be enough to get the kill. If not, try and wait for both. Because once you use it, that Replicate image might not be able to keep up with your opponent. So, you know, in this case, Invoker's Phase Boots. Of course, I cannot use Phase Boots on the illusion, so I use it a bit early here, but it works out just fine. And actually, let's slow it down. So we're chasing, we're chasing, we're chasing. I use the Replicate on the Invoker, continue to chase, immediately Replicate back in, and now all I need is a Waveform into an Adaptive Strike. I actually miss him, and again, I used it too early. I really should have held on to it. Because we have track up, we know he's not going to be able to escape. We know he's not going to be able to juke us with the fog. In the end, we get the kill. Okay, so now I'm catching up in terms of farm. It's 28 minutes in. Now let's talk about other items you might build as Morphling, because I said he needs a lot of items. I said he needs to farm a lot. Well, what would you want to build with this guy? A lot of items work well on him. Generally, anything that gives you strength or agility will be good. So even things like Sanjiasha are okay, but the core items that you see most people go for, a bit of a blow is being traded here. But as far as items go, the main things you'll see are Mantis Style, Ethereal Blade, Lincoln Sphere. These are the big three items that most players will get early on. Lincoln Sphere helps you farm a lot. It's very good defensively because of that spell block as well as the regen it gives you. That's a great defensive pickup. It's a great pickup to farm. We're going to see now the Replicate TP trick, so I TP back to base, I'll Replicate back in. It's a free fountain trip for me. But yeah, Lincoln Sphere great defensively. Ethereal Blade will be your best offensive option. And this is another thing you could do with Replicate. Oh man, there's so many uses for it. So little time to discuss them all. It's a great ability to use for mind games. So we saw there, I actually was thinking about replicating back in, but as soon as I saw that Prophet TP, I was like, okay, I'm just going to bait him with this. So I leave the Replicate there. They think it's a real hero, and especially because it doesn't take additional damage. There's no easy way to tell with Morphling. The one way you can tell is I believe it has the enemy hero's color. So if you use hero colors, it'll actually be brown in this case, not light blue. Or even if it's an enemy hero, an Invoker, a Gyrocopter, it'll be brown, not yellow or orange. So that's one trick for telling which one's a Replicate. But still, even then it can be hard, and especially for new players, you might not be quick to click. So anyway, in terms of items, Mantis Style, pretty versatile, helps you pushing a lot. Again, you want to go for items that give you a lot of stats. Eye of Skady is another big pickup. The other item we see a lot, which I don't see many pubs go for early, I don't think it's on the recommended items for him, is a BKB. In this game, BKB is just absolutely essential. I actually joined the fight mid, but the fight ends, and, well, I missed some farming. But now we want to go. I'm going to lead the way here, take a lot of damage, but they really can't bring me down quickly. I think the glimpse was a bit late. They do glimpse me back in. Great Literal, locking them down, wave back in, and this is where Morphling, I mean, he's a carry, but he's also a tank. They use a lot of spells. They can't burst me down. It really helps having the Lincoln Sphere, also Morph being useful. And if you ever really get into trouble, you've also got Waveform, you've got Replicate. Morphling has not 1, not 2, not 3, he actually has 4 escape mechanisms, so take full advantage of that at every turn. But yeah, in terms of item progression in this game, my thought process is, I looked at the enemy team, I see the Invoker, no magic immunity on him, relatively low base HP. Gyrocopter, same thing, just an Aghanim Scepter, no BKB. The same for the Prophet, just the Force Staff and Ultimate Orb. There's nobody with a BKB. There's no, except for the Phantom Assassin, who's just got a BKB, so she's not really going to hit very hard. And with, I can generally kite her pretty effectively. So I go for Ethereal Blade. Even at 32 minutes in, ideally you would like to get this earlier because, again, it is countered by BKB to some degree. You cannot banish your opponents when you're actually, when they're in BKB form, but when they're magic immune. So if you're up against Lifestealer with his Rage ability, or heroes that have BKB, it's not always the best item. But in this case, based on their heroes, it seems like a great choice. Low HP, lack of magic immunity, those are the two factors to decide if you want to go Ethereal Blade. Now, the other benefit to this Ethereal Blade it doesn't just make you hit harder, it also gives you a defensive banish. If you want, you can go for Ghost Scepter early on, and then if your opponents are right-click heroes, that Ghost Scepter can help keep you alive. You know, whether it's an Exhort Invoker, a PA, they cannot target you while you're banished. And even when you have Ethereal Blade, this is a trick that some of you may not know about. I didn't actually know about until recently. You can use the Ethereal Blade twice. You'll just tap the hotkey twice, and you'll just banish yourself. So even if there's nobody to target, you can always defensive banish. And of course, with Ghost Scepter, you can do that right off the bat too. So I almost have the Ethereal Blade. Once I have it, you're gonna see I kick into another gear. This is when I get really aggressive, and we are falling a bit behind in terms of time. So I'm gonna keep it on 2x speed as much as possible. Replicate's up. I send the replicate to scout, and we're looking for profit here. I wave in a bit late on the wave. If I'd done it just a second sooner, I could have adapted strike, and then that prophet would have been dead. Still, I have my Ethereal Blade now. I have a replicate up, trying my best to micro it. You do want to have good sort of map awareness and micro when you're playing Morphling. You don't need insane micro. You make a replicate and then you send it somewhere, whether it's back to base, whether it's to gank an enemy. Then you go back to control your main hero. But just that initial step, you got to make sure to use it. Okay, Ethereal Blade is up. I see Gyrocopter rushing in on me, and I want to go on him. I'm not fully agility morph, but I am quite a bit. Now, I think I actually screw up the combo here. It looks like I Adaptive Strike first, and then I use Ethereal Blade. This is incorrect. Generally, the order of operations is you banish them first with Ethereal Blade. That does some damage based on your own agility, and it also will put them into Ghost form. Now, while they're in Ghost form, actually, you know what? Oh, you know what happened? I double-clicked it, so I don't banish him. That was my mistake. So, be careful about double-tapping that hotkey. But you want to banish your opponent, then you use Adaptive Strike. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, when you're in Ethereal form, you take extra magic damage. So in this case, you banish him. That makes your Adaptive Strike hit even harder. Instead of losing about this much health, his health bar will probably be about here after the banish, hitting him. Because also I'm not hitting with the Ethereal Blade, as well as the amplified Adaptive Strike. And then on top of that, you wave it. Now, you don't always have to do it this way, but that's the way to maximize your damage. And it's called the Shotgun Morphling. The idea is you morph entirely to agility, and you just try and pop heroes instantly. You go for those instant kills. It's something that not many other carries can do. It's one of Morphling's great strengths, even in the mid to late game. If he's got enough items, if the opponents don't have BKBs, he can pick them up instantly, especially enemy supports. Now, this Gyrocopter is not the squishiest guy. He's not super tanky, but in the end, I screw up the combo. I'm not going to be able to kill him, so what do? I back off. I go back to farming. Again, Morphling, I can go for these kills, but I don't need them. I can also just be farming. It's such a versatile hero, really at all stages of the game, and it's what separates him from an anti-mage who just has to farm for most, in most situations. Or, on the other hand, a ganking hero like Night Stalker who's not going to benefit as much from damage. Okay, Replicate's up. I send the Replicate back to base. I send my hero in to fight aggressively. We smoke up. We want to get some kills. And this should be an interesting fight, to say the least. We spot out the Disruptor instantly. Adaptive to start, wave to follow. I still haven't used that Ethereal Blade. Didn't even need it there. But now it's available, and I think I'm going to use it momentarily on the Invoker. Now, one thing I want to mention, I'm going to pause for a second while I talk about this. Adaptive Strike only has a 10-second cooldown. It used to be 20. So this is the one nuke you can spam as much as you want in a team fight. Sure, you have your ideal combo where you banish them first with the Ethereal Blade, then you Adaptive, then you Waveform. You don't always need that damage, and you don't always want to use up that Ethereal Blade cooldown, which is a lot longer. It's 30 seconds. So in this case, I don't need it. I hold on to it. My shotgun is active again, only 10 seconds later, because of course Waveform has that 11-second cooldown, very low as well. So, use this Ethereal Blade judiciously. That's my point. The other two, you can pretty much use them instantly when you see an opponent. But this one, make sure you use it at the right time when you need that extra bit of damage to kill a hero instantly. Okay, so we get the kill. Now we can look to Roshan. I believe that's what we end up doing. That is about... my Replicate dies. I'm going to bottle up an Illusion Rune. And we head into Roshan. And then my team doesn't really help me. I wanted Frost Armor. I was yelling at Wicked right now. I love you, Wicked, but sometimes you drive me insane. Okay, finally Frost Armor. Alright, there's your combo. So, if anyone didn't catch it, let's watch that in 0.5 speed. I think I would have been too far back. If you guys are disliking all the backtracking, just let me know. But I feel it's instructive. If it's bothering you, I'll do my best to avoid it. I think I missed that kill. Okay, we're gonna have this big team fight here, and oh, we already saw that. I mean, I guess if you're sick of backtracking, Lumi probably has made you sicker than anyone else. Okay, so we start Roshan, and we realize we don't have vision. The wards get placed down. Now he spots one on the map. I'm actually a bit slow to notice him, but now I see Invoker's there. Okay, Invoker, if you're this Invoker, you need to be running instantly from full health down to nothing. It's a lot of damage that Morphling brings to the table. You really cannot underestimate this. And actually, Evoker does a great job of surviving as long as possible here. He 4-steps away, and the waveform actually misses, although it looks like it's going to hit. It just doesn't matter. So I make a Replicative Lich, I TP top to stop the push. I'm going to stop this push, and then I actually might have been able to go for the Prophet. I thought he walked away farther, but I stopped the push. I'm going to get the lane pushing the other way, and then I can replicate back in. It's just such a versatile spell, allows you to be everywhere whenever you need to be. Okay, back to 2x speed. At this point, we are quite far ahead. They have a PA, but she really doesn't have farm, so I should be able to carry this late game. At this point, I can really go for anything. Manta Style would be great to remove Disruptor Silence. Also, they have a lot of slows. It removes those. It removes Cold Snap. And one thing I just saw you might see me doing here, I micro the illusion. I wish I could draw on the map. I send it over towards the bottom lane. When you get this Ethereal Blade up, and there's enemy heroes you can kill, I mentioned the one way to do it, which is send your Replicate back to base, and then send your hero searching for the kills. But there's another way. This way is to send the Replicate around, serve as bait, do some scouting, and look for your opponents, and have an eye on that Replicate. If you spot someone out, then you go in for the kill. So I'm going to find one now on the Prophet. And I keep on saying I want to speed things up, but there's so much action in this game, man. Banish to start, adaptive to follow, wave on top of it all. And it's really the adaptive that's doing the bulk of the damage because it's being amplified by the Ethereal Blade. Okay, let's try and get through this game, and I want to at least finish in an hour and give you guys just a bit of time for questions. Okay, so I pop my illusions here. We're pretty far ahead. I think I've covered most of what I want to talk about with Morphling, but let's watch a few more team fights. Just to see sort of how you should be playing. I spot Disruptor out. He's the first hero I can get my cotton picking hands on. Oh, Adaptive Strike. And I'm gonna get that pick off. And then I can replicate back bottom if I want to do so. No, actually I just let the replicate die. For anyone who didn't see, there's a timer that appears over the Morphling. And that timer counts down. And when that reaches 0, your replicate dies. Also, obviously, if it takes too much damage, it'll die. But, yeah, you keep an eye on that number, and then you can use it. Make sure when you're about to run out of that replicate, either you back off or you use it if you need to. Okay, so I'm gonna get an Aegis now. That's gonna help me out quite a bit. And now with the Aegis, I mean, I've already been playing aggressively here in the mid game. You could be doubly aggressive because I now have another escape mechanism, another way to survive, and I already had a lot to begin with. We're gonna see. I think that's exactly what I do. Okay, so again, this is the tactic. Send your replicate to scout. Hero farms over here. You're farming and you're ready to join the fight instantly. He's like Spectre, except it's not as long of a cooldown ultimate. And it also gives you extra utility. So again, it's the simple combination. Ethereal Blade to start, that does about half his health. And then on top of that, he's just going to die to adaptive here. So I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but you really do want to practice that combo. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad idea at all to do some practice games just to get comfortable with the hero. Okay, so going to do a little bit more stacking, a little bit more farming. I have to credit my team this game. They did a great job of creating space for me to farm, and it's something you need as Morphling. That being said, as far as carries go, he has one of the best times in the game dealing with a bad lane. I mean, he's hard to kill. He can farm well quickly with waveform. He's got that mobility, and my replicate runs in. You're gonna see it's a great way to distract the enemy, waste their time. They have to waste a lot to kill it off. So, yeah, it's all about the mind games. It's not just about getting those kills. But when the replicate's down, you do want to be a bit more careful. I think the next item that I go for is Manta Style here. Is that correct? What is coming in? No, it's a completed Eye of Skady. Okay, I was filthier rich than I realized. Eye of Skady, if you can get it, is the best item in the game for Morphling in terms of cost-efficient stats. It gives you... Let's actually just look at it for a second. I drop it on the ground by accident. Oh, that's a big mistake. If their Prophet was here, if they had anyone invis and I lose this, enemy can kill this item. Never do this. Make sure you don't misclick. That's what your deliver hotkey is for. I think I was even trying to bottle crow or something dumb. You don't really need to do it at this point. But yeah, Eye of Skady, plus 25 to all attributes, so it gives you 25 agility, 25 strength. Again, you cannot morph the stats from items, but it means that if you morph your other stats, your hero stats, you still have that extra strength, that extra agility, so it pretty much works out the same anyway. If I could morph those item stats, it would be a little outrageous. Morphling's already strong enough as it is, guys. But, okay, so yeah, I have Skady up. Most cost-efficient stats in the game. Also, a great item to deal with melee carries, because that slow will go through BKB. Even up against your, like, PA, you can actually kite him quite effectively. Okay, I see a big fight breaking out. I'm going to look to show up and turn this thing around. And at this stage of the game, you really do need to have good map order. And it's not just for the replicate, but also for the hero picks. I actually want the Invoker. I see he's run away, and I think I'm going to find him. Am I going to find him? Just not sure if I will. I think I have the scent, but yeah, it's a bit too far to chase. So instead, what do? Farm the enemy jungle. 2,400 gold in the bank. At this point, I could go for Boots of Travel. I could go for a BKB. I think BKB and Lifesteal is all you need at this point to win the game. And Lifesteal is really good on Morphling if you get a BKB up, because he's got so much base damage and so much attack speed that he hits really hard. It means that he can be very effective with it. Actually, I forget in Dota 2 how it works. I know in Dota 1 these will stack, the slow as well as the Lifesteal. At least, or Dota 1, at least the range shares they will stack. I think it does in Dota 2 as well. But either way, it's a pretty nice combination to have. So I create the replicate. I walk back to base because I think I want to buy Boots of Travel at this point. I want to spend that gold, free up an inventory slot. So I walk back, I send the replicate out, now I'm hunting. I'm on the hunt again, and let's actually go to my player perspective. Where are my eyes? They're back and found for the moment. I actually run the replicate into about 4 enemy heroes, and once again, they will be forced to gank it with their entire team. Okay, just a few more minutes left in this game. Since you guys have watched it so far, I'm sure you very much want to see this ending. Boots of Travel picked up, and if you can get late game Boots of Travel Morphling, it's an amazing item to have, because not only, I already have the replicates move around the map, and to give me that escape mechanism, now I have Boots of Travel as well. And if they've got a pretty low cooldown, they give you really great movement speed, and it gives you an extra way to move around the map for a hero that already has so many. Morphling can really be everywhere at once. It's the phrase Wicked used in this game. He said, okay, now you can really be everywhere at once, and that's really what it is. I mean, even without it, Morphling kind of can be, but especially with them. And well, you see the damage, you see the power of Morphling here. I dive into the entire enemy team. I'm actually, while I'm sheeped up, while the sight device is used on me, I can't actually use Morph. That's why I die, but it doesn't matter. I come back to life, I wave in, just chewing through the enemy team. Actually held in place, so killing some creeps, and now PA comes in. PA wants to fight, but she can't handle this damage. It's too much damage for me. Track, great item, or great ability for me to chase up the hill. Now the focus goes on the Prophet, and look at the power of Morphling to dive. I actually wasted Waveform. When you're up against Prophet, you really want to save Waveform if he tries to self-sprout. That way you can wave in, and then you'll have vision, and he won't be able to escape. So, nice job by him getting away, but it's just not going to be enough. And from here, it is pretty much just a stomp to victory.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Okay, so we're gonna win the game. I think that's pretty obvious by now. I think you guys have seen enough of this game, so let's bring it back to the webcam. Any questions? Anybody have things they don't understand, things that don't make sense, things they disagree with? If you have any feedback, anything you want to talk about, please, this is your time to ask questions about the hero, about playing carries. I mean, it doesn't have to be about Morphling, but anything that I've talked about in this commentary. If you'd like to know more, this is your opportunity. We'll take about 3-4 minutes for questions. Why Morph so strong? I don't know, but I gotta say, I welcome the age of Morphling over the age of Anti-Mage, Medusa. At least Morphling gets kills early. As far as carries go, he's not too bad. He's still a bastard of a hero, but he could be a lot worse, I will say that. So, any question? Would you ever rush Skady? It's not a bad item to rush. The thing is, what it gives you, even when it's complete, it's mainly just great stats. Ethereal Blade gives you a lot more burst damage, which, if you ever watch a pro game, burst damage is so important because teams are going to have Mechanism, they'll have Magic Wand, Urn, lots of ways to heal, lots of ways to escape. You need to be able to kill heroes quickly, especially up against an Earthshaker, a Sand King, a Tidehunter, a big team fight hero. So Ethereal Blade gives you that burst. If you're playing defensively, if you're behind, Lincoln Sphere, even BKB, is going to offer you more. So you could go Eye of Skady. I just don't think it's the best item, even if you complete it. Also, the build-up for Eye of Skady is not very good. Until you complete it, it doesn't offer you a whole lot. Point Booster is cost-effective, but everything else, the 2 Ultimate Orbs, as well as the Orb of Venom, they don't offer you a whole lot for the money. They are quite expensive. Where's the call eHome VODs LD? They are currently processing on my YouTube. Will Morphling be phased out by Naga Siren? Well, I can tell you right now, Naga Siren sees some play in Southeast Asia and Dota 1, but Morphling sees a lot more, and I think it's mainly Mineski who like that Naga Siren. Yeah, Naga Siren is not going to phase out the Morphling. How will she affect how other carries will be picked? One thing Naga Siren is great for is dealing with BKB carries, but Morphling is not a hero that's reliant on BKB. The reason she's great at it is twofold. The first thing she can do is her net goes through BKB immunity, so it's great versus Lycanthrope. You'll often see her pick to deal with him. It's great for anyone else that builds a BKB or his magic immunity like Lifestealer with his rage ability. So the net's great for that. The other thing is their Song of the Siren is a really effective counter to dealing with those BKB carries, not for the heroes themselves, but for the supporting cast, because it doesn't go through magic immunity. So if they use their BKB, they won't be slept, but the rest of the team will, and then you focus that carry down, you go back to the rest. So I don't think Naga Siren really will affect Morphling, because, well, she's not designed to counter him specifically. She's better against heroes that really need BKB, heroes like Lycanthrope. Who else really needs a BKB in Dota? I mean, I guess it's great on everyone, but in terms of who really needs it, I think Lycan is the biggest one that comes to mind. Okay, any more questions? Is the reason I didn't go Mad Style before Skady? To me, Skady is more of a luxury item, so it's kind of like, I don't know, have you guys ever gotten a big bonus at work, or come into some money you didn't expect, you find a $20 bill under your couch if you're in high school or something like that? I basically came into money, I was like, what's the most luxurious item I could buy? And it's Eye of Skady. I mean, really, Manta Style gives you a bit more utility, and I think the Skady's great. I'm not saying it's a bad pickup, but in this game, that Manta Style would be really nice to deal with the silence from Rubik, as well as the slows that they have, the Cold Snap from the Invoker, the PA Stifling Dagger. Manta Style will remove all of those, so I think it would have been the better choice in this game, but it also gives you a bit of pushing power. But Eye of Skady is always going to be good on Morphling, and that's the thing about Morphling. Pretty much everything is decent on him. If you want to rush Ethereal Blade, what sustaining item should you buy? I like Bottle, I like Magic Wand. I don't like Soul Raid on Morphling because he needs some form of HP regen, especially with Morph. I think Bottle is, even if you're in the side lane, I think it's always a decent choice. If you want to rush Perseverance, that's fine. But if you're going to rush Perseverance, make sure that you're having a good time in the lane and that your team doesn't need you. Because if you buy that Perseverance, that's 1,800 gold that you're not investing into more cost-efficient items like Boots, Bottle, Reign of Aquila. Reign of Aquila, another item that gives you some mana regen. So that would be my primary recommendations. Yesterday, Lumi touched on the difficulties of coordinating team fights in pubs. When do you think it is appropriate to not care about the team and just pick a hard carry to carry the game yourself? This one coming from Kethers. Sorry I didn't refer to some of you guys. I will try and do that in the future. Personally, I feel like picking a hard carry is generally a bad strategy in pub games. If you want to maximize your win rate in pubs, pick a strong solo mid. Heroes like Queen of Pain, Night Stalker. But if you're going to pick a carry, I don't think there's a better one than Morphling right now. Because he doesn't need the items before he can start getting kills. We saw it this game. I had a bad time in late. I didn't last hit well. I was getting harassed a lot. They were actually ganking with Prophet and Sunstrikes, constantly bombarding my lane left and right. And I still get a bunch of kills. And I mean, from that respect, Morphling is a hard carry, but he's very effective without items too, especially compared to others like Anti-Mage, Faceless Void, and so forth. He's also effective before he hits 6, which is another big thing. So I would say don't pick hard carries if all you care about is winning. If you like playing them, then by all means. But especially if you're solo queuing, I don't think they're the most reliable picks to win. Okay, guys, that is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for your great questions. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found it useful. And before I go, let me just mention what's coming up for y'all. Oh, homework for everybody. Next time you play a game, pick Morphling, give him a whirl. And the one thing I will say is I want you to play Ethereal Blade Morphling. You might die a lot, you might not get that Ethereal Blade early, but just give it a shot, because frankly, I think it's the most fun thing to do on a carry hero in the game. Boy, it makes your opponents quite mad. I've had some games where I get a lot of flame for playing the hero, and I kind of understand it. You know, it's sort of like the whole anti-mage picker meme that we had a couple months back. But yeah, play him, build an Ethereal Blade, and go for those kills early and often. That's your homework. Okay. Tomorrow, we have the No Fountain Trip Challenge. It's going to be on Luminous's channel. That's twitch.tv/luminousinverse. If you missed today's episode or any of the previous ones, the VODs are available on YouTube, Twitch, and blip.tv. For YouTube and Twitch, if it's Luminous's segment, it'll be on his channel, twitch.tv/luminousinverse, youtube.com/luminousinverse. If it's my segment, it'll be up on youtube.com/LDdota. twitch.tv/LDdota under the video section. But if you want to watch everything in one spot, go to the dotashow.blip.tv. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. I hope you guys enjoy the commentary. I hope you find it educational. If you have any feedback on the format, on the specific topics, anything like that, email me at thedotashow@gmail.com. Let me know what you like, what you dislike. The show is still a work in progress. But of course, it wouldn't be possible without you guys. And it's great to have an audience. It's great to see even a few people learning. If you enjoy, please tell your friends. Share with them. Post about it on Reddit, Team Liquid, wherever you frequent. And God, I gotta stop hitting my desk. That camera's just shaking constantly. I'm gonna give some people vertigo. Sorry about that, guys. It's making me dizzy, and I'm just seeing the camera shake. I'm not actually looking at the screen. But yeah, if you enjoy the show, please tell your friends, send them over. I'd like to. It's not just so that I get more viewers. It's also because, well, help your friends get better. I know some people get frustrated if their friends aren't very good. I feel the show is quite educational. And the more people that are tuning in, the better we'll all be. And hopefully the more knowledgeable we'll be too. So that's going to do it for today. Thanks all again for tuning in. I'm LD. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow on Luminous's channel for the No Fountain Trip Challenge. That'll be, once again, at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, 4 a.m. Central European Time. I'll see you all then. Thanks again, guys, and have a fantastic night.